Hello. Welcome everybody to live coverage of the charity FPL Chess League. My name is FPL Joel, if you know me from Twitter. I've organised this tournament. And yeah, this is the first match to be streamed on YouTube between Az from Fantasy Football Scout and FPL Honey Badger. So they should be about to start. And let me just find their game. So, if you're watching and you don't know what the charity FPL Chess League is, it's a tournament, a league system that combines both chess and the game we all love / hate, depending on which game week it is, FPL. And there are 18 players, 3 divisions of 6 teams. It's a round robin format, and in each match you play against each opponent twice, once with each colour, and if you finish 1-1, there will be an FPL tiebreaker in a pre-assigned head-to-head, somewhere between game week 22 and 28, I think it was. So it's 3 points for a win, 0 points for a defeat. If it's a draw, you get 2 points if you win the FPL tiebreak, and 1 point if you lose the FPL tiebreak. So I've told them they can get started, and we'll hopefully be able to spectate their game in a sec. Do say hello Do say hello in the chat if you're here and watching. And best of luck to both players. The time controls are 15 minutes and a 10-second increment, meaning 15 minutes each for all the moves, and you get plus 10 seconds every move you make. Now, I'm nowhere near an expert. I'm about the same rating, about 1500, similar rating to Honey Badger. So I will try my best, and hopefully, especially for beginners, hopefully you'll learn something from my commentary. But hopefully you'll be able to see the action. It'll be entertaining. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So, Az has started with the Slav defense. That's what this c6 move means. So d4, d5, c4 for white, and then c6. That's the Slav defense. And it's just early stages. So in the opening, what you'd like to do is get your pieces developed towards the centre of the board and get your king castle to safety. A formation that players often like to use is put their bishop on g2, so it has this whole diagonal to itself, and then the king castling behind the bishop. Now you'll see that black has won a pawn here. Often white will give up a pawn, and that's why it's called a gambit. The word gambit means you give up a pawn in the early stages, but there's always some sort of compensation. And here for white, the compensation is this really strong centre with these 2 central pawns. So in the charity FPL Chess League, there's only one match that's happened that I know of. No one's messaged me with any of the results. I played against Az yesterday, and we drew 1-1. So we have an FPL tiebreak in game week 28. One of the good things for this commentary is having this engine bar telling me who's winning. So if there's a mistake, it will shoot in one direction or another, which is helpful for me as a commentator to spot when there's a mistake. Siobhan Shah in the chat. Yes, it did start with the Queen's Gambit. D4, D5, C4. That is the Queen's Gambit. So yeah, black can take, but he decided not to, and he played C6 instead. yeah, both of these players are going to be among the stronger in the tournament. They're both in Division 1, but what I'd love to be doing is streaming matches from Divisions 2 and 3 as well in the future. That'd be great. Monday evenings is going to be a regular slot. You'll have myself. You'll also have FPL Honey Badger. He will join. We'll probably do some together, to be honest. But obviously he's playing, so so he can't commentate and play at the same time. So looking at this position, it's very even. Isaac is what I'll say instead of FPL Honey Badger. It's a bit easier. He is the favourite in this game. Definitely, if you look at the ratings, it's quite a big difference between the two of them. But I think Az hasn't played that many games on chess.com yet, so I suspect it's a bit higher than what it says there. Isaac playing quickly. He's got more time than he started with. He started with 15 minutes on the clock. But Chaz spending time to think, and that's okay. And material is even, but I do like White's position. In fact, sorry, material is not even. Black is a pawn up, but this really strong centre for White. And he's got his knights out. He's got his king to safety. That's always your objective. Get your pieces out and get your king to safety at the start. The computer doesn't like that. I'm not sure why. I would expect Black to castle here. Suyog's in the chat. I'm about 1500. Rapid, yeah. So, by no means an expert, but can hopefully be of some help. Okay, so let's just go back to a few moves here and talk about this. So, I think the reason why the computer didn't like Queen C2 that much was because this queen was defending this pawn, as was the knight. So what Black did was remove this knight from the board. Then when it was recaptured, he could take this pawn for free. So now the material, Black is now up 2 pawns. White has lost one of his central pawns. And in moving queen to c2, that was actually a mistake for Isaac. What White does have, though, is this really strong rook. Eyeing up the whole of the d file. But it shouldn't be too much of a problem for Black. Just castle. Ooh. Why was that a bad move? I'm really not sure. White apparently has a good move here. You saw the engine bar shoot to... I mean, +1 isn't that much. Each number means like... +1 means a pawn, basically. Effectively, the position is such that you have an advantage that is pretty much equivalent to being up a pawn. So White attacks the bishop. The bishop's going to have to retreat here. Now then, I would like to show you something here. This is the only square for the bishop without being taken. If White played b4, you might be thinking it's trapped. It can't move anywhere. But if you don't know the rule en passant, it's French. Never mind. I was thinking you can take this pawn with the black pawn, and the bishop's safe, but the queen drops. So, what I want to know is why can't White play this? Why isn't that just winning the bishop? I don't really understand, not going to lie. I mean, you have to take, you're attacking the queen and the bishop. The computer's okay with me just taking. Now, in my mind, black's just down a piece. Okay, I think why that's okay for black is if you count the pawns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pawns, plus the 4 on this side, so 8 pawns to 4. So basically, black is a piece down but has an extra 4 pawns. And if you know, kind of in theory, a bishop and a knight, they're both worth 3 points or 3 pawns. So roughly 3 pawns for a bishop would be an even trade. And it could be very, very troublesome for white later on in the game. If these pawns start marching up the board, then yeah, there's going to be an issue. And one of them will probably become a queen. So I see people in the chat. By the way, I'm operating on a 1-minute delay. It's just I trust these guys, but it's a slight way of stopping them from watching the stream at the same time. So I'm now just seeing your messages about b4 being a problem for black. Absolutely right. And you'll see in a sec when I analyse it why the engine is okay with it. Now let's go back to the live position. Okay. Normally when this happens, they've made a load more moves, but they haven't. So that's good. So now what we need to see is, first of all, does Honey Badger play b4? He does. But Az knows that he just has to take. There's no option. I wonder how Az is feeling. Because you never like losing a piece like that. He's got a lot of compensation for it. I suspect, though, what was the engine saying earlier? The engine was saying that black had a significant advantage. So his position isn't as good as it was before, certainly just being 2 pawns up. But it's going to be interesting to see here whether the extra piece or the 4 extra pawns are going to be stronger as the game goes on. We'll see. Keep putting your thoughts in the chat, by the way. It's good. Helpful for me. I don't know if anyone here is particularly high rated. Let me know. Let me know if you are greater than 1500 in rating. Camera is frozen. Can you hear me still? Yeah, let me know if you can hear me still and everything's working and everything is supposed to be okay. Might just change the I can't change the resolution now. Yeah, just let me know if there are any problems. Right, let's go back to the chess. It's amazing to see so many of you watching. I'm really pleased about that. I just never thought. I thought, you know, I might get 5 or 10. So welcome to all of you. I'm really glad you're here. Yeah, I'll try my best to make it entertaining and enjoyable. Oh, good. I'm glad to see everything's fine with the camera and the audio. That's good. But yeah, this is only the 3rd time I've tried doing streaming, so bear with me. I'll try my best. Okay, the computer's saying white has a significant advantage here. Obviously, like I was saying before, up a piece. Just trying to think what the plans for each side would be. I think for black, it's probably get this rook into the game. It's doing nothing at the moment. Now, if you're white, don't trade, I would say. Because if white trades, you know, it's not even white's turn, never mind. But regardless, if you're black, I wouldn't trade either. Because now white has control of this d-file. This rook, I mean, it could come to e8, I suppose. But you'd really love to have your rook on the d-file. In fact, what we have seen is the exchange. Now, this knight's a very important piece because rooks love the 7th rank. You would want a rook to be kind of here, where it can terrorize these pawns. But this knight is really important because it defends that square. So do not move that knight if you're as. That is as. Yeah. Hang on, I've just realised I'm still on the analysing board. So he did play rook to e8. I think that's good. That rook needed to get out the corner. Yeah, if you're white, you just really want that rook here, but you can't do it yet. So generally, when you are up material, like white is here, what you want to be doing is trading pieces. If you were to take everything off the board, apart from like a knight or a bishop, then white's very happy, but these pawns are going to become an issue. So I really don't know how this game's going to go. What I'm really hoping, though, is that they continue to, you know, neither player has made a big mistake yet. And I want to see a high-quality game without blunders. It'd be really good. Okay, white is chasing this c4 pawn. So now I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking it, 2 defending. What I want to know is, isn't it just lost, the pawn? Isn't it just gone? You can't defend it a third time. So what do you do if you're black here? I don't know. But the computer really likes black. Okay, it doesn't like that. What does it? What would be the move? Yeah, to my mind, the c4 pawn is about to fall. So I don't really know why the computer likes black so much. Okay, that's a good move, yeah. So, you know, what you'd like to do, if you just play a random move for black, what you'd like to do is take, maybe with the bishop, something that's of the same value as the knight. So actually it would be the bishop, it wouldn't be the queen or the rook. Because then if you do an exchange, it's an even exchange. But by playing this move here, let's say white does the same thing, loses the rook, no good. So now the rook has to move Now you can take here, but you lose in exchange. A rook is worth 5 pawns. A knight is worth 3 pawns. So this kind of number assigned to it, it's just kind of a measure of how strong that piece is. So a rook is stronger than a knight. It can go horizontally and vertically completely. So yeah, that means that it's worth more than a knight, and you didn't want to exchange you wouldn't want to exchange a knight for a rook. Now I'm seeing people suggesting it in the chat. That's good. That's the thing with the delay, because oh hello. Is this the real game? No, it didn't actually take. Okay, let's back up a bit. Sorry, I need to. Okay, what actually happened? Next time I might not have this delay, because your guys' ideas are good. I want to see them a bit earlier. So, anyway, that's a really good move by c5, meaning the rook has to move away and this pawn is saved. Now, something important to note in chess is that double pawns like this aren't particularly strong. A pawn's best friend is another pawn, but only when it's on either side of it, so that they can defend each other. Like you see here, this pawn is defended by both of these pawns. So my point is, in exchange for white, well, it's no biggie. Black now has these 4 pawns next to each other, and they can start supporting each other a bit better. Minor point, not game-changing by any stretch. But instead, white played rook to e1 check. As moving the king up, no problems there. Now, I think if you're white, you want to kind of get after these pawns on this side. So something like rook here, probably here. But it's easily defended, so I think my internet's a bit dodgy, by the way. Sorry about that. You see these keep flashing. That means something's wrong with the internet. Can we get a Botez Gambit? Wow. And I actually know that reference. We have a real... someone who... This is definitely a chess enthusiast. So a Botez Gambit is named after a streamer called Alexandra Botez, and she is renowned for throwing away her queen. So losing your queen for nothing is now called a Botez Gambit in the chess internet world. It's nice to see a very even game at the moment. So, yeah, Black's long-term goals is to get pushing these pawns up the board as much as possible. It is not often you see 4 passed pawns. And if you don't know what a passed pawn is, it's a pawn that can just run freely up the board without any pawns to stop it. So, like here, if this pawn was to run up the board eventually, can't go any further because of this white pawn. But on this side, keep on running. And what you'd really like to do is move this knight out the way so that this pawn can start going. But it's still defending this really key square. Because like I was saying before, white would love to put a rook here. So we see Isaac's made a mistake here. He's just dropped his knight. Queen takes. Queen takes. Thank you, Joe. That's really helpful. I'm really pleased to hear that. That's great. It means a lot to me. Right, okay. So, Az is going to win this first game, I think. Oh, he's won by resignation. Now that... Yeah. I think if I was Isaac, I probably would have carried on a bit longer, but he must have just completely missed that the knight was undefended moving it there. It's a shame, because what I was really hoping is for kind of a blunder-free game. But good players. Interesting. If you look at the chat there, Az is not sure why he resigned. I'm not sure if I would have done in this position, but if that happened to me against a good player like Az, I would have thought, I've lost this. There's no way back. Because blunders like that are rare at this level. Which means that eventually that advantage is just going to become too much. So that's 1-0 to Az. And they'll be starting their second game any moment. So yeah, in this, I'll just give you a recap now for anyone who joined a little bit later. The Charity FPL Chess League has 18 players, 3 leagues of 6. There's promotion and relegation. Top team gets promoted, bottom team gets relegated, and then the second, second place in Division 2 will play 5th place in Division 1 in a playoff, like a promotion relegation playoff, a bit like what you see in the Scottish Premier League. And there'll also be opportunities for, if any of you want to join in, if you play FPL and you also play chess, I would love to do a second season at the start of the next football season. So that will be kind of August, September time. Yes, they should have their second game in a second. So each match, it's a round robin. So you play each of the 5 other people in your league once, but you play 2 games. You play 1 with each colour. So what we're just waiting now is for them to start their second game, where the colours will switch. And yeah, so it's 3 points for a win. If it's a draw, 1-1. After the 2 games, there's an FPL tiebreak. I can't remember which game week it is for these 2, but it's somewhere between game week 22 and 28. And it's just like in football: 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 for a loss. But in the drawn games, you get a bonus point if you win the FPL head-to-head as a tiebreak. So, I don't know what the delay is in the second game. Okay, he's ready. Yeah, it's a shame that it ended like that. I wanted to see it go on to be a really close game right to the end. It's never nice to see games end on blunders like that. So Az is guaranteed at least 1 point for the draw. And now Isaac's goal is to take this to an FPL head-to-head tiebreak. And while Az's rating is significantly lower than Isaac's, like I was saying before, he hasn't played many games on chess.com, so I think it's lower than it should be, really, to be accurate. However, I do still think his true rating's probably a bit lower than Isaac's. So I'd put it down to not an incredible shock, but I would put him down as the underdog at the start. So we'll see. but he also drew 1-1 against me, and I have a similar rating to Isaac as well. So he's a good player. Okay, so in the second game, now I'm not good enough to know opening theory in a lot of detail, but I do know the names of a lot of them. And this one is called the French defense. I mean, it says here, but the French defense is in response to e4, which is probably the most common opening move in chess. After d4, which was played in the first game, that's what I like to play as white. The French defense is when black responds with e6 instead of e5, which is probably the most common response that you'll play a lot of you. D4, D5, and an exchange, and you get a very symmetrical position. As pushing C4. Okay, bishop to B4 check. You don't really want to move the king, because you want to castle eventually, so blocking move with the bishop or the knight. What did he play? He played bishop there. Takes, takes. Now, what's important here is if I play a random move for white, black would love to exchange the knight for the bishop. It's an even exchange in terms of material, but these double pawns are ugly. Like I was saying, they're really easy targets because pawns like to be defended by other pawns. So that's why he played bishop to e2, so that if he did capture, he could take back with the bishop instead and preserve that pawn structure. And it also means that when he castles, the king will be a lot safer behind these three pawns. You don't want the king out in the open because the queen side's already fairly open with this c pawn being pushed. So black castles. I expect white to do the same now. DT, good chess books. I don't read a lot of chess books, not gonna lie. I don't have many at all. So I'm honestly not sure. I have like kiddie chess books from when I was a kid and learning chess. But it's all quite basic stuff. There's loads of good online resources as well. On chess.com there's lessons. You can only do one a week if you're not a member, but I mean on other sites as well there's so many good resources. Okay, white capturing this pawn on d5. Happy enough to leave himself, once this pawn's recaptured, he's happy enough to leave himself with this isolated pawn on d4. So if you don't know what the term isolated pawn means, it's a pawn with no pawns on either side. So like on the e file, there's no pawn whatsoever. On the c file, same. Which makes it an easy target, but it's not the end of the world at all. It's a very even game at the moment. Both sides have very similar pieces developed, number of pieces developed. Both kings are castled to safety, which is good. Eddie Rue, not read any of these, but saw recommended complete endgame course by Jeremy Silmans. I need to brush up on my endgames. I'm not very good at my endgames. I always rely on my intuition, and I've taken a couple of lessons on chess.com, but like it's so much easier to memorize in a way it's a bit sad because in chess a lot of the moment with openings it's often about memorizing deep lines at the top levels way above me, but you hear commentators talking about knowing your opening theory, which is just about memorizing all these different variations and everything. And it's similar with endgames. If you just play off intuition, you're probably going to get it wrong, and you need to know the theory behind different endgames. So we're going to see which player is going to start mounting an attack, but I think both of them are just focusing on developing their pieces at the moment and just playing sensible moves. So Az is going into a bit of a think here. I mean, just the obvious moves that stand out to me are things like rook to c1, rook to e1. Just get this rook into the game. Maybe he's weighing up whether to take this knight, which he could do. But then queen takes. The queen gets into the game, and maybe he doesn't want to allow that. I don't know. But it's good to be spending some time to think and come up with a plan, because obviously Az is by no means a beginner, but trouble maybe sometimes beginners have is they play a move but they don't really know what the purpose of the move is. It's just like, I wasn't really sure what to do, so I'll just do that because it seems okay. So good purposeful moves will mostly be things like bringing the rook to c1 or e1 to get it into the game. He decides to take, that's also fine. What's Az's real rating? I'm not actually sure. I think he said he was a chess champion at some point in his life. At a regional level. So I don't know what he is now, what an accurate representation is now, but it sounds like he used to be pretty good. Maybe, I mean, this is just purely a guess, but like 1700, maybe 1800. But I don't know. He hasn't said like how long ago that was, how confident he feels now. Now, at the moment, I think white is a little bit more tied down than black is. The reason for that is this knight can't really move. If the knight was to move here, my point is that it's basically pinned to the bishop, and the bishop falls. However, no, I was wondering whether knight to e5 is a move because it blocks the rook's path. But the computer doesn't like that because, okay, here we go. For those of you who find it hard to spot things called tactics, which are basically sequences of moves and combinations that lead to material being lost, you might think this is just an even trade, that black can just take. Oh, okay, never mind. See, to me, that just loses a knight, because if you take back, then the queen goes. But why is that not the best move? What is an even better move than that? Okay. Rook takes means, again, you still can't take because you lose your queen, and then suddenly this... I'm just trying to figure this out. Taking with the rook, again, you can't take back with the pawn, but now this bishop's under attack again, I suppose. And then if you're white, what do you do? Maybe something like rook to e1. Ashley Rushton, he doesn't really have one at the moment. He only just came back from chess. He played for Essex/England as a kid. England, wow. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was something like that. Is pushing the rook to g4 a good move to push back the bishop? Do you mean the pawn to g4? You know, yeah, if that's what you mean, then it's okay, but it opens up the king, and that's never a good sign. Anyway, let's go back to the game and what's actually happened. So what did happen? He did play rook to c1, dropping a pawn. Oh, okay, a lot's happened. A lot's happened, and I haven't caught up. Okay. Right, so black won the pawn. That wasn't actually the best move, but then what happened? Rook takes the pawn, and okay. This is losing for white because of this next move. Knight takes f3. Now, that's check, and the queen is hanging. So after recapturing the knight, the queen falls, and that's game over. So this game's going to finish 1-1 with mate to come. Yeah. So unfortunately for Az, he's not going to get the win. And so bishop to f3 check. King's only move is to go to h2, which means black can play queen to g2 checkmate. Yeah, Az just resigned instead of letting that play out, which is fine. But yeah, that's how it would have ended, and the game's finished 1-1. So yeah, let's just look at those last few moments again. So rook to c1, that move was, it was okay. The computer didn't like it loads, but it wasn't losing at all. It did drop the pawn though. Now, what would have white's move been that was better? Probably to... Taking's not an option. Okay, taking was an option. Takes... And then moving out the way to still defend the knight. Not a problem. So I think that would have been okay for white if he'd just taken instead. But what Az was thinking was, oh, it's a pawn for a pawn, right? And yeah, like I said, check, meaning that the queen falls. So those are things that are really easy to miss. Yeah, that's it. That's the end. Az is in the chat saying that was stupid, wasn't it? No worries, mate. It's a long time since you're just picking up chess again. It's easy to miss these things. But yeah, the game is finished 1 apiece. And what that means is this game will go to an FPL tiebreak. And that will be, if you bear with me a second, I'm going to try and find what game week that is. Oh, I remember now. I think it was game week 27. It's a while away, but to determine who gets this extra point on the leaderboard, it'll be a game week 27 FPL head-to-head between these two. And that will be all. That is it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed the commentary and that you will join us again for another match. Yeah, it will be Monday nights, as many Monday nights as people request to have their games streamed. It could be Division 1, Division 2, or Division 3, and I'm really hoping to get Isaac on, or anyone else actually who wanted to come on with me. It'd be really good to have a co-commentator. It would make life a lot easier for me, because it's quite hard to talk and think about the position at the same time. So yeah, any offers for a co-commentator would be really appreciated. But yeah. So I think I will sign off now, and yeah, join us for another match at some point. You know what I'm going to do before I go? Is go to my Google Drive, get the spreadsheet out, and enter this result so you can see. You can see all the participants here. We've got, this is Division 1. Wombat FPL is a strong player. He's probably the favourite. Tony, myself, as FPL Honey Badgers, Isaac, and Rad FPL. And yes, there it is. I'll enter 1-1 there, and they will go to a tiebreak in Game Week 27. Division 2, we've got Axel Tan, FPL Alex, FPL Slovakia, Rob Marshall, Ronarid, and FPL Stevo. And in Division 3, FPL Glasto, Owen Maloney, Jonic FPL, Steve Bird, and David Strom, and FPL Mac. So you might be able to see any of these guys playing chess on a Monday night. But yeah, that will be all from me. Hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully see you again soon. Take care and have a good rest of the game week. And for me, that's a Salah blank. We'll see. Great. Have a great evening, guys. See you soon.